So 2016 sees the introduction of the Apollo Lake chipsets, 14 nanometers, quad core, and this right here is the Voyo V1. Now it is powered by the new Pentium N4200. It has 4 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabyte SSD. And the build of it, you can see this thing is very small, fits in the palm of my hand. So let's start out with a look at the design. So along the front of it, there's just a simple status LED and power on button. And the build has all the ports at the rear. So we've got 3 USB 3 ports there. Now these all power external hard drives, no problems with that. Mini HDMI out, an audio jack for audio out, of course, and then a micro SD card slot. LAN port and DC in to power it, which is 12 volts, 3 amps. So on the bottom here, 4 rubber feet. If you want to get access to the internals, you need to remove these. They're stuck on, and you can access the screws then, and open that up, upgrade the RAM or SSD if you wish to do so. Now, if you want to see how to open it up and what the internals look like, check out my unboxing video. There should be a tiny eye popping up right now in the video, and that will give you access to that. So here's the intake vent. And then the exit along the top there is where the warm air comes out. So instead of the built-in wireless AC I was led to believe it had, that is what was in the box floating around that I almost missed. So it's saying a wireless and USB dongle. And as you'll see, the speeds of this aren't really that good. Neither is the range. So you have to give up one of those USB 3 ports in order to have wireless, which really is not good at all. So boot time of the Voyo V1 is approximately 40 seconds. It's not super fast or anything like that, but it's adequate. It does have an SSD in there, so it is faster than those cheaper mini PCs that have the eMMC drives on there. So I wanted to show you now just the device manager very quickly, just to point out a couple of things in here. So you see there, processor, Pentium, quad core. I'm going to have a look at the disk drives on board. So Windows is installed and runs off the 4C 128 gigabyte SSD. I'll show you the performance of that in just a minute. And this right here, the Samsung you see, is a 32 gigabyte eMMC. Now that's a slower drive. It has approximately 100 reads, 100 megabytes per second reads, and around 60 megabytes per second writes. A lot slower than that SSD. It only has drivers contained on it that they put on there, Voyo. Now under here, network adapters. All we have is a gigabit Ethernet port, Realtek branded. Now I did run some benchmarks here, which I will show you. First is the Cinebench score that I got. Now this is definitely not breaking any records. You can see there, OpenGL score and the CPU score, but I think it's adequate and sufficient for the type of chipset this is. And here's the speeds from the included wireless N adapter. So not the greatest, wireless N only. Okay kind of speeds, but what is very poor out of this adapter is the range of it. It's not good at all. I do not recommend using it. No, I wouldn't say throw it in the rubbish bin, but buy yourself a decent adapter with an external antenna. And here is the LAN port, and very good speeds here. That is the fastest my fiber optic line can get. I have a 300 megabit per second line, and you can see it's actually exceeding that. So very good speeds there, no problems. And the pass mark rating, this is the newer test. So the performance test 9, there's the score. Again, it's an alright score for the type of chipset. And lastly, I wanted to show you right here is Geekbench 4. Now the single core score here is a lot better than an Atom Cherry Trail X7, the fastest ones. Beats that by far, but it is still slower than a Core M CPU like the 5Y10. So this is the 128 gigabyte SSD as mentioned before. Read speeds are good, but not the 4K random reads. That's actually quite bad. 6 is not really that good, but 70 random writes, 4K is good. And for the guy in the comments asking me to run Antutu, the benchmark, here it is. The score of 131,000. So first I wanted to show you 4K streaming via YouTube here in Chrome, because Chrome with the Atom X5s and the X7s, the Cherry Trails had a lot of problems. It would have a lot of stutter and it wouldn't actually be smooth. So let's see here if it will be. I've enabled the stats there and you can see that it's still the same case here of dropping frames and being a little bit choppy. So Chrome is not the browser you want to be using when streaming 4K here. If you use Edge, it's perfect. It's flawless. There's no drop frames at all there. Now, apart from streaming 4K videos, everything else in Chrome seems to work fine. I'll just load up techtablets.com here that I haven't actually cached or loaded this before, so let's see how fast it takes to render the page. And that you see didn't take long at all. Now the scrolling is very smooth. I would say it's not quite as smooth as Edge. I have a few videos here with various different bit rates, some of them really high, up to 250 megabits per second. This is an MKV file. Let's see if I can play these. So that one you can see is working just fine. That is fluid, it's smooth. It's 100 megabits per second. And here we have a 181. This is a 4K file now. There is some stutter there. That's 10-bit. But it seems the stutter is only in the beginning and now it is smooth. And lastly, the highest bitrate one here. That is choppy. Not really too good, but again, it's actually become smooth. It's just the start of it seems to be choppy. Now onto gaming, just going to test out a few titles. First up is Rise of the Tomb Raider, and as expected, there's no way that this game is going to be playable here. You need a dedicated GPU for this kind of game. So this title here is Dirt 3. I'm running it on the lowest settings, lowest resolution as well, and it looks like it's going to be just playable, but that frame rate's not really wonderful. But not bad, considering this is just a successor to the Atom Cherry Trail. League of Legends running in 1080p on the lowest visual settings here. You can see we're getting good frame rates, around 50 frames per second. This is just a game against two other bots and another bot on my own team. So it's not really super demanding here, but I can definitely say that even an online game with lots, you should be getting the whole time over 30 frames per setting. You can even probably tweak up those visuals to around the medium level there in 1080p. So good performance here with this game. So here is Counter-Strike Global Offensive, running very low settings here. So I'm running it just at 800 times 600. And we'll see what kind of frame rate we're getting. It's looking like it's going to be playable around 40 frames per second. And yes, I absolutely suck at this game. And there's something wrong with my mouse not actually letting me shoot for some reason. So this title here is Asphalt Extreme. Windows Store game running in the default settings 1080p. You can see there's a bit of stutter here and there, but it is playable at least. So here are the maximum temperatures it got up to just during the time I was gaming here. So 74 degrees. I have seen it get up to 80. But it hasn't ever triggered thermal throttling, so that little fan is doing its job there, preventing thermal throttling, preventing the performance from being reduced due to temperatures. Alright, so just to wrap up the video now, just to go through my pros, I think the performance is actually quite acceptable, really good. A definite step up from the last generation, the Atom Cherry Trails, like the X7. It is definitely faster there, which is a really nice improvement with the GPU too. So you can play some popular titles with at least playable frame rates. Now it's not a gaming device, but if you wanted to play an older title on the side, if you wanted to play some Counter-Strike or a bit of League of Legends or something, lower those settings and it will actually still be playable there. Upgradability is another pro for this device. You can open it up, you can put double the RAM, 8 gigabytes maximum, and also put up to 512 gigabytes in there for your SSD. Now the cons. it makes a little bit of noise because it's got a fan in there. Now, it's not always on, so if you're just doing something basic like internet surfing, it shouldn't come on, but now and then sometimes it does cycle on and off. But if you're pushing it hard gaming, you will always hear that fan. And the other con is wireless. It's not built in, as I was led to believe from the press material and the images that Voyo released. It was, I think, originally going to have wireless AC built into it, but a last minute decision calls them to just include a cheap dongle that's only wireless in, and the performance out of that wasn't really that great, and of course you have to give up a USB 3 port there. Thank you so much for watching this review. Now, if you did like it, why not think about subscribing to the channel, because I'll have plenty more up and coming reviews of tech out of China. And thank you so much for watching this video here.